you can hear us okay. Welcome to Trail Talk Live with Ricki Wynne after his performance at Istria 100 by UTMB. I'm going to start calling it 110k from now on because we're selling it short here. So uh, we're going to touch on the questions that we asked you before the race. That was, what was your race strategy? What gear you're using? And what is your nutrition plan? And the purpose of today's call is, how the fuck did it all go? So let's kick off. How was it? How did the race strategy go? I know the result. People in that are viewing it probably know the result, but give it to us. Like, how did the day pan out for you?
Yeah, so slightly underestimated this race. I think a lot of people probably do underestimate this race because we're told it's like it's a 110k race. It's super runnable. In the trail world, that's what we like to say. We like to say these courses are runnable, but really and truly, like, it's 4,000 meters of climbing. Like, what's runnable about 4,000 meters of climbing? But and it was very, very hot. Like, I'm not saying it was 30 degrees, but it was like 23, 24 degrees. And just because of where it was, and it felt like when you were down in the valleys, it almost felt like you were in a canyon. So you had like the rocks either side of you, and the heat that was coming off the ground was very, very similar to like running in a sauna. And all the riverbeds were super dry, so there was nowhere to really cool down. So it was just hot, and it was just hard. And coming from an Irish winter that's pretty much lasted like 8 months, it was not easy to adapt to that kind of heat. Like, and I did struggle a bit with that. But we'll say overall, strategy was I was going to try and run that first 42k pretty solid, and try and end up after that having something in the legs. And okay, I'd say I did do that, but it started to hurt a lot sooner than what I wanted. So after maybe 30k, I felt like that my legs were zapped, and it was like I had no real energy, no real snap. But I was still moving well. It's just what it felt like internally. It felt like I wasn't moving as well as, like, we'll say, my splits were saying, and what my average pace was saying. But that's probably what the heat was doing. It was just zapping everything from me. But like, I'm going to come out and say, like, where I finished was, I was 10th male, and took the hand off you, all day long for that result. And I was super happy after the race. But like, in the last, like, let's say 5 kilometers, I went from 8th male to 10th male. I got passed twice in the last 5k, and I got passed on the promenade on the way into the finish. I think there was like maybe 40 seconds between me and the other guy, because he just had a little bit more in the tank, and I watched him go by me, and my heart sort of broke, and I
Yeah,
had no answer. Yeah.
that's because you said, I'm fairly confident I can have a really strong finish. I can have a strong last 25k, and I saw that because at one point it looked like I was texting a couple of people. And I was like, I mean, he could be potentially like sixth, seventh, or something like that. The way you were sort of trending, and then it looked like there was a bit of struggle bus coming in towards the end. So, do you think that was just the accumulation of heat?
Yeah, it was definitely the heat, and it was like the accumulation of everything. Like, I never once felt like I couldn't do it, like, and I never felt like I was going to bonk and blow up. But it's just the I couldn't seem to get any more power, if you know what I meant. And like, look, hindsight's a great thing. Like, now I'm looking at it, kind of going, look, in that training block, I probably didn't get as many long runs as I wanted in there. Like, so I'm talking like 40, 50k runs in there, because, like, no, I'm not making excuses, but would say I was carrying a few niggles, and I didn't, even though I was still doing like maybe 30k back to backs or 25k back to backs, I didn't want to put my injury through those kind of 40k runs and 50k runs in the training block leading up to it, because look, it's early in the year, and I didn't want to put myself there. And maybe that's me just being a bit of a pussy in the training block, but at least now I know that moving forward, I need to bring more of those long runs into play, like, you know, because I feel like I'm in a good place, and that's a good way to start the year. And I'm super pumped about a top 10 finish in a UTMB race that was stacked. Like, you know, you had Pau Capel there, you had Pablo Villa there, you had Janis there. It was full of elites, like, you know, so it was super exciting to be part of that, and to put my little Irish name coming from Leeds, from little small county. You know, we got no mountains here. To put myself on a top 10 finish in UTMB is, you know, like, I think it's an amazing result. Like,
I maybe didn't check this right at the very end, but whenever you were sitting in eighth, you were the top placed Hoka athlete. Did you
yeah,
finish top Hoka athlete?
yeah, I did, because I think the second place lady was a Hoka athlete, and she was, I think she came in maybe 6 minutes behind me. She might have been quicker, but I think it was around 6 minutes. You know, and I mean, I was looking over my shoulder waiting for her too, because, you
The
know,
little dot was getting closer to you.
yeah, like, I actually made a few phone calls on that last, like, sort of 9K stretch to my older brother, because I knew he was following it, he was tracking it, and I was ringing up him, and his name's Alan, and I was saying, Alan, I need to know what's the gap, and, like, as far as he could see, the gap was like 8 or 9 minutes to the next man, and that would have kept me in like ninth or something. But obviously, look, the trackers, they're not 100% accurate, you know, depending on where you are in the course and stuff like that. And he was saying, if you just keep that pace going, which is all I had, left, and it was like I was crying just to hold on, and it was like, if you keep that going, nobody will catch you. But lo and behold, this man passed me on the way in, you know. But look, I'm still stoked. I'm still stoked.
The strategy was to go out there and race your butt off and get a top 10, and you did it. So I think we probably got just say congratulations. You put it out there and you delivered. So well done. And then, so what about gear? I think you were going to use the Tecton X2, and then you had the brand new race pack because you left yours at home. So tell us about the gear. Anything you would change there?
Yeah, so the shoes were brilliant. Shoes were perfect. I had no issues with my feet whatsoever. No issues with blisters, sore toes. No issue. I think I ended up with one black toenail, maybe two black toenails, but I actually had no pain in my feet from start to finish. So that was great. And, like, there was people falling, because there was parts of the course that were really slippy, you know, and kind of technical on downhills, and there was guys falling left and right of me, and I had no issue, you know what I mean? Like, but compared to what I'm used to and what you're used to back in the UK and back in Ireland, like, this kind of terrain isn't slippy to us at all, you know. We're fine with that. um would say socks really good. I wore the compress sport socks again, same issue, same thing with the shoes. No blisters, no hot spots, no nothing, so they worked really well. Really happy with them. And then just on the regards to the vest, I was worried, because it's I have the compress sport 15 liter. It's got the zip in the front, and the 10 liter that I got has sort of that zigzag. And I was thinking, I wasn't just sure about the lockdown on that, and would it be moving, would it be bouncing the pack. But I gotta say, like, really impressed with that pack. Like, I didn't notice it all day long, and that's, look, there's no better compliment to an item of gear is when you don't notice it, you know. Um, Let me think
Have
what
you watched
else.
the pack because you've promised it to some lucky viewer, lucky
Yeah,
unlucky?
it's
I don't know, some lucky viewer that fits into a small vest that also likes compressed sports. So I mean, there's a niche of a niche here. Have you been in talks with anybody?
Yeah, I've had a few messages in my DMs and in my inbox, but and some of them are just saying, "I'll take it off," and I'm going, "What size yet?" They're large. She goes, "It's not going to fit you. Like, this is not going to fit you. Like, it's a 34, 36 inch chest, you know, so it is limited. Like, so, but I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna put it up on my Instagram. Whoever wants it can have it. I'm gonna do a bit of a giveaway. You know, look, if
You
I get a
promised
few.
it to a viewer of Trail Talk.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Then
you go
okay.
back and you watch that last interview, and there's people. put comments in the put comments in that last
Okay.
show.
Okay.
So take those people into account, and I think
Yeah.
you need to do a public raffle or something. Keep it fair.
Yeah, well, look, if it went live, then it's I'm online saying it, so I've got to do it. So yeah, I'll definitely do that. That's no problem. Yeah, so like gear, the only issue I had was I wore the Free Belt Pro again, compress sport. It's a belt I always wear, and like I always wear it's an extra small. But the issue I had with that, because it was so hot and because like I just felt like it was restricting me. And sometimes when you have a pack on you, like a waist belt on you that long, it really annoys your guts and your stomach. And I felt like I kept having to push it down onto my hips just to, because it was just putting that little bit too much pressure on my abdominal area, like, and that kind of was annoying for a couple of hours in the race. I kept having to kind of adjust that and move that around. Now, it's still a great piece of kit. It's just because of the heat, it probably just annoyed me that little bit more than it normally would. Because like that, I wore that in Tunisia. I had no issue with it. I wore it in other races, never an issue. But just maybe because of the heat, it just wasn't sitting right on me.
Yeah, so that brings us on to the last thing we got to come back to, and that is the nutrition plan. Now, you mentioned the belt was getting a bit uncomfortable. My own personal experience with that is that you get a little bit of swell when the electrolyte balance starts to maybe go out a little bit, or just through sort of fatigue of sugar. So, how did that? Do you first off, did you keep to the 60 grams per hour that you were taking? What were the aid stations like? Give us the rundown on the food.
I I kept to it as much as possible. There was probably times in between aid stations later on in the race where I probably was only getting, I wasn't drinking enough, and I might have only been getting like between 40 and 50 grams of carbs per hour. But that's because like you're running for 11 or 12 hours and it's just constantly drinking. And then sometimes you can get just so tired of drinking, or just something's not sitting right like that, where I'm trying to let my stomach like settle and then just maybe sip on some water for a while. But overall, I was pretty happy with my fuel, and overall, I think I got pretty close to that 60 grams of carb. I never did feel like that I was under under fueled or over fueled. So I felt like it worked really well. The only thing I'd say is what happened at a few aid stations was the aid stations were great. There was loads of stuff there if you wanted stuff. There was like the typical kind of European selection of breads and cheeses and meats and stuff like that. And then they had the knack drink mixes. But what they had was, so they had the flavored drink mix, the lime flavored knack drink mix, which is again like 250 calories per 500 mils, and they mix that on site kind of. And then the other one was the broth, so they've got like a salty broth, and that was the two options. And I just felt like, look, it's pretty hot, I don't want the broth. But at some aid stations, they were mixing them up, and they were putting broth in the lime one and lime in the other one. And when I'd leave the aid station, I'd take a mouthful of it, and it's broth, like, and I'm like, oh, I really don't want this, but look, I've got to drink that, like, so it's the same thing. I'm still getting the same calories, and it's just the it's an
I
acquired
think there's a bit more
taste.
sodium in that.
Yeah, maybe so. But like, I was like, whatever, you know what I mean? I'm racing, I don't care. Get it into you, so it's fine. But yeah, and then I did take towards the very end where I was kind of fed up with just drinking, so I did take a couple of the pouches. So they're 30 grams of carbs in them. So I was probably drinking a little bit and taking in some of them, and they're like a baby food kind of puree. So I was
Yeah.
actually holding on to that. Take a sip out of that. Take a sip of water. Take a sip out of that, and that actually went down really well and kind of settled my stomach a bit as well. Whatever was in it. So yeah, look, I'm delighted. Look, NAC are now sponsoring me, so it's so cool to see this in races now. So it makes my fueling so much easier for races in the future as well.
And what was the stocking like in the aid stations? Did they have all the gels there for you to pick, or was it purely the fluids?
Now, so like a lot of these races, you will have an aid station that is kind of liquids only, and then you will have a feeding station more so that has more everything. And then those feeding stations, the bigger ones, they would have drink mix and the pouches, you know, and the waffles. So the water stations would have only had the drink mix and the waffles, and then the feeding stations would have had the drink mix, the waffles, and the pouches.
Right. Okay. So all in all, you think you hit 60 grams mostly through fluids, but you topped up with some of them on the gels or
Yeah,
the purees or whatever they call them.
yeah, they're the purees. Yeah, yeah. They like. I will just say that they are bringing a gel out now, so I'm looking forward to that. So in the next race, maybe they'll have gels in that race, so that'll be cool to see.
So yeah, I test. I got one of the off-brand packaging knock gels last year to try. It was a caffeine one. Uh, what was your caffeine strategy? Did you take? Was there a strategy? I don't think we touched on that in the first interview.
No, so again, the the caffeine came in through Coke. So I think from maybe I was saying around 70K in, I'd probably hammer some Coke, and that's pretty much what I did. So when I got to about 70K, I probably had like a cup, the cup that that you have to bring, like the refill cup. So I just fill one of them and hammer that into me, and I kept that going for every, let's say, every 15K. That's kind of roughly what every aid station was after 70K. So I was just one shot, one cup full of Coke into me. And Coke is super fuel when you're 70K into a race. There's nothing that comes close to it. It's just that perfect balance of sugar, carbohydrates, and fizziness, you know?
Yeah, it's nice on the palate. Yeah, whenever you're only taking it in at 70, you do get a good kick out of it. I can remember once reaching for uh, Coke at about 30K into a 100 miler and just like, this is going to be a bad day, but I need
Yeah.
this Coke.
That's
uh,
that That's the problem. Once you start taking all the coke, like if you start taking coke from 20K in, you're gonna have it all day. You won't be able to get away from it. It's like that, you know what I mean? If you reach for the coke, you're gonna have to keep topping up because you'll get that hit of sugar, but the crash will come just as quick. Like, yeah.
yeah. So to wrap things up, we're on about time now. What would you change, if anything? If you were to do it all again this weekend, what would you change? You can't put in a new training block. So, in terms of gear, nutrition, strategy,
No, like little things, like for anyone that doesn't know who I am, right? Like I'm not a full time runner, so in my part time, I'm a carpenter, and like the week leading up to the race, I was laying timber floors, so I came into the race with really tight adductors and a sore lower back, you know, no more than today because I'm only after finishing laying more floors today, so little things like that were. Look, I know I got to pay the bills, but maybe with a race coming up, don't do that. You know, a few days before a race because it's not fantastic for the body just before a race because I felt like my back was a little bit sore during the race and my adductors were a little bit on the tight side. But look, they were fine. And then other things like, look, in the perfect world, I'd be able to get some warm weather training in, you know, before a race like that. But like, look, we're this is what we have and this is what we do. So you can only these are the cards you're dealt, right? So I can only do what I can do. I can only control what I can control. So I'm pretty happy with how it went, and that would be maybe the only thing I'd change is that I'd like to have maybe jumped in a sauna if I had known it was going to be as hot. But I didn't think it was going to be that hot. And to be honest, that was the story of the day. The story of the day was the heat. You know, anyone I was talking to after the race, they were cooked. They were just cooked. Like, yeah.
all right, cool. A couple of comments down in the chat. Did Ivan clip you at the end? When did Monica F1 make the pass? I think you already touched on that. Do you want to just go again?
Yeah, Ivan and me had a really good battle, like for hours and hours. You know, like it might have been two words between the two of us, but there was like little wry smiles and stuff like that, and head nods here and there for like 30 or 40K, where he'd get into an aid station, I'd pass him out at an aid, you know, vice versa, to and fro. But like, kudos to that man. He left enough in the tank just to pass me, and I'm sure he was doing what I was doing, and he was looking over his shoulder, thinking he could get passed by that second place female. So that's where he just kind of probably got the nod from somebody, because there was a guy crewing him on the way in, kind of shouting at him and telling him, keep going. And he just had more in the tank than me at the end, you know. So he passed me with about less than a kilometer to go, I'd say. Yeah, less than a kilometer to go. And the female winner, she was in the lead group from the word go. From the word go, she was in the lead group. You know, she was running alongside me very early on. And up front, and I once she got ahead of me, I didn't see her all day. She had a phenomenal race, phenomenal race.
Cool. And yeah, a couple other comments in there from BA. Yeah, we're aware of the anonymous listing on the results. Ricki is onto that. No point in us digging into it here. And yeah, that'll do us, Ricki. We will see you potentially next week in the next episode of Trail Talk. But until then, have a good weekend, mate, and I'll catch you soon.
Yeah, peace. Thanks a million, guys. Thanks a million.
See ya.